Now, South Africa's class of 2025 has delivered its strongest matric performance yet, achieving an 88% national pass rate, a 0.7 percentage point increase from last year. Now, it's a milestone worth applauding, but behind the success lies a tough question. What happens after the certificate? With youth unemployment still alarming high, strong results alone are no guarantee of opportunity. Now tonight on the show, we move beyond the celebration to ask how education can translate into skills, jobs, and sustainable livelihoods. A very good evening. My name is Thabo Molokoane. Welcome to this edition of Soweto Today. Tonight, we are talking empowerment for South Africa's youth. With the matric results now out, we are at a defining moment for the class of 2025, a class that has made history in the classroom but still faces uncertainty in the economy. Joining me this evening on the show is Dr Memuna Williams, who is the founder and CEO of Empowering Sustainable Change. Doc, much appreciated for taking the time. Good evening. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's good to be with you.
Much appreciated. I mean, the 88, percentage pass rate, officially confirmed there. I mean, the question is, should we start popping up the champagne? Should we start celebrating as a country? Or is there reason to worry about what lies beyond that?
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
This morning at breakfast, I sat with a faculty member from the University of Pretoria, and she was all smiles as she said, we did really well. We have an 88% pass rate. You can tell from my accent that even though I've been living here for 10 years, I'm not South African. So my litmus test was somebody who's South African who said that it is worth celebrating. And I agree with her. I think that all the matriculants should be congratulated. They have now something in hand that shows an accomplishment. But it's also a time for a reality check. What comes next? And we'll talk about that here, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, what comes next is, post-matric. Obviously, you look at the youth unemployment, which remains high in the country, almost 50%, if I may put it in numbers. I mean, let's talk about what explains the disconnect, and also, what does it reveal in terms of the link with the economy?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of issues. There's structural issues. If we're just even thinking about these matriculants and their paths forward, they're face to face with an immediate bottleneck. There just simply aren't enough spaces in the public universities to absorb them. And then culturally, we're still in a place where we place a high premium on university degrees when there are, in fact, many other pathways. So how can the people who make decisions, whether that's in business or in government, move away a little bit from that risk aversion and start to open up more opportunities for young people, especially since there are things from the young people that they have to learn beyond what those young people can learn from going into the government spaces and business spaces as well.
So is it an issue of, from, post-school, qualifications, the matric, and then you look at, the lack of spaces in public universities? Do we need to build more in terms of, absorbing all these young people that are there? Because obviously we are hearing, problems when it comes to those students that are trying to register in various universities at this point. There is no space at this point. Funding also remains a major challenge. What needs to be done? Yeah.
Well, the building needs to be done, but that's not going to solve the problem for the matriculants who just got their results a couple of days ago. So what else can they do right now in order to help them move forward? And it depends a little bit on what they want to do and therefore what the options are in front of them. Some of them do need the university spaces, and so I think maybe they can start by asking themselves if university education today is what they need. And if they don't need that and they can get what they need from maybe a community college or from a TVET, maybe they pursue that pathway to keep them moving instead of waiting for a university opportunity to open up. Of course, we start out by talking about the public universities, but there are also private university options. And of course, then that brings in the issue of cost, which is there, I think, also on the public side, but I think it becomes more pronounced on the private side. So there, an action that can be taken can be around scholarships. And I think often around things like scholarships and opportunities, it's just that the young people don't know what's there. Sometimes you hear educators saying, we have the scholarships, but people are not applying for them. So maybe a twofold approach where the young people can go out and make an effort to look for the opportunities that are there for scholarships. Today it's a little bit easier because you can go to ChatGPT or some other AI tool and say, tell me about scholarships, and it'll bring up a whole host of things that you can then sense check or triangulate with conversations with real people around, does it make sense for me to go for this one, or does it make sense for me to go for this one? And at the same time, then I would encourage institutions to say, please make efforts to make your opportunities for scholarships more visible so that they don't go unused, and young people who need them in this country and in this context can take advantage of them.
Dr. Williams, I want us to talk about the issue of mental health and their well-being in general after the ad break, and also looking at the interventions that government can bring in order, or business in order to to prevent these young people from swelling into the ranks of unemployment and stuff. We're going to take a quick ad break. Dr. Memuna Williams helping us unpack pathways to prosperity for South Africa's class of 2025. Let's take a quick breather. When we return, we'll look at how education, also skills and entrepreneurship can work together to secure real futures for young people. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Soweto Today. Tonight we are asking a critical question. How do we turn an 88% pass rate into real jobs, skills and economic inclusion for South African youth? We continue the conversation with Dr. Memuna Williams, founder and CEO of Empowering Sustainable Change. Doc, much appreciated for staying on. I mean, the issue of mental health, a very important topic at this point, especially when you look at these young people that have just completed matric. There are those that also failed, matric. How important is taking care of their mental health and their well-being in general as they usher in, new year, new direction, and all these kind of things? Yeah,
really, really important. It just so happens that yesterday I was at the conference of the Education Collaborative, where I presented some information about a mental well-being program that I was a part of for youth that included youth here in South Africa. And when we went to talk to the young people to ask them what kind of mental well-being issues they're experiencing, the answer was that they are experiencing issues, and a variety of them across the board. So it's very, very real. This was a conversation with young people in the Durban area, but that could have been a conversation with people right here in Johannesburg as well. But what we found was that when you expose them to, in our context, we were on the mental well-being side, so a little bit preventative. So kind of taking care of your mental well-being before it becomes something clinical. We did find that it makes a difference in terms of the entrepreneurship outcomes, which was what we wrapped our mental well-being interventions around. And we also found, because we did A/B testing, that even just being active helped them elevate the issues that they were experiencing, that we measured at the baseline and that we then measured at endline. At endline, everybody had improved, whether they had gotten the mental well-being content or not. So what does that say for these young people? Do something. just even doing something, getting involved in a community program, that in and of itself is going to enhance your mental well-being. And if you're lucky enough to be in a program that includes mental well-being, like the program that I was a part of did, that presents you with scenarios about how to deal with stressful situations, allows you to talk about it, and then presents you with the actual theory that you need to know about these things, then that can help you as well. And of course, then on the clinical side, there can be referral pathways to help people with that in communities.
Doc, let's talk about the importance of government and business coming together in order to make sure that they assist young people in general. I mean, I know we're talking about the class of 2025, but just young people in general to get into the job market, decrease the number of unemployment, because when you look at the percentage points of in terms of the people that are unemployed in the country, it's somewhat demoralizing, especially to young people. How do they, bring change or take part in assisting these young people?
Yeah, I think that the idea that is coming to my mind is around barrier breaking, right? We talked about structural issues and cultural issues, and some of that is perpetuated by business and government. By business through hiring practices, for example, focusing on the credentials that come out of the university that then creates another additional bottleneck for those who are coming out of TVETs or community colleges or indeed other places. Maybe they did find work and they were able to find experience through that, but they might not have the credential. But because the hiring practice says you have to have a BA or whatever has you, that creates then another bottleneck for those who don't have that credential but have been innovative enough and creative enough to find another pathway to get the skill. So how do they look at their own practices, maybe be a little bit less risk averse, articulate different ways in which somebody can integrate a job that's not necessarily a BA. And that's something that I had to do as a business owner, and I'm a classically trained translator in a previous life. And because of that classic training, I had a bias towards hiring people who had the same classic training that I had. But when I moved into a different context, I learned that people come to the expertise in translation in different ways than I did. And so I chartered a hiring practice that said, I understand classic training, that's easy for me, I can hire those people, but here's what I will consider if somebody comes to me that's a non-traditional pathway that has shown that they've gotten the experience, that they're serious about continuing in this profession, and they have a portfolio that they can show for these kinds of things. So definitely for business. And government knows, the policies. I was fortunate to join UNGA last September. I'll head to Davos next week. They know what's needed. They know the areas where skills are needed, what needs to be built. And so how can you then recruit young people into those areas that are in demand?
Just before we go for a quick ad break, maybe in brief, because we're running out of time. I mean, the importance of digital literacy, especially in preparing young people for the job market. How important is that?
So important today. Even kind of the old things like spreadsheets and word processors. My husband and I were just talking about young people don't know how to use those things anymore. But of course, AI and all of these other digital platforms, so important.
Dr. Williams, we're going to take a quick ad break. When we come back, let's wrap up the conversation, looking at the skills and mindset that, that they should be prioritizing in order to stay ahead and compete, because these days competition is also needed at this point. Dr. Memuna Williams, they're joining us as we unpack all things, technology, all things education, especially for the class of 2025 and those young people that are still unemployed at this point. Do stay with us. We're coming back after this. Welcome back. You're still watching Soweto Today. Much appreciated for joining us. We are in our final segment with Dr. Memuna Williams, the founder and CEO of Empowering Sustainable Change, as we discuss all things young people and finding jobs and going to university also. Dr. Memuna, as we unpack this, wrapping up the conversation, let's talk about the mindset that should be prioritize in order for these young people to stay ahead, and also how can they start developing them at this point?
Yeah, I think what I would want to have them understand is that they have agency. That means, like, if I take away the fancy word, you can do it.
Yeah.
Yes, you can, as Barack Obama used to say. But you have to build that muscle of belief. And that takes taking small actions every day. But what are you taking small actions towards? Before you start taking action, like classically in business, you plan and then you execute. Take some time, if somehow you haven't had the chance to yet as you've come to your matric, to think about who you are, what you want to do. It doesn't have to be a perfect answer now, but it can give you a sense of direction. And once you have that sense of direction, then you start testing the different avenues that can take you along the way. And the reward for doing something and then learning, that it worked, for example, is that your brain will understand that, in fact, you can. It's no longer theoretical, right? And then you can build on that to the next thing, towards that self-efficacy where everything flows, everything has worked, everything has built on itself. So take one small action today that's intentional, based on something that you would have thought about, that, okay, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to test this, that, or that, the other.
We spoke about, a few things, business, university and stuff, but we haven't really touched more on the importance of bridging the gap between education and entrepreneurship, just in general, especially for those that, have limited resources and no startup capital. How do we then do that? Yeah.
I think, often when it comes to entrepreneurship, people look at what they don't have. And they forget to look at what they do have. And often, if you can, and forget to think differently and outside the box. So if you use a combination of the things that you do have, and it could be as simple as, I don't have money for transportation, but I have a cousin who loves me, who happens to have a car, who would love to drive me to my interview or wherever it is that I want to go, or to the place that I need to go to meet up with my friends so that we can work together and start building out this venture. I don't have an office space. As an international person here, I'm aware that there are places like American Corners that make spaces available for young people, where they can gather and meet. Standard Bank used to have an incubator space. Where are those spaces in your community where you can go, get access to the internet, query the AI or do some kind of search and start to put the pieces together that you need towards whatever venture it is that you want to build, or indeed whatever application that you want to do, whether that's school or scholarship or something else.
Just lastly, before we wrap up the conversation, Let's talk about a final message now to these young people, especially, the class of 25 as they are taking the next step, post-matric. What would be the advice that you would give to them, especially those that are coming from, rural areas? They'll be coming to the cities, the big cities. They don't understand the dynamics and everything that's happening in the cities. What would be the advice to just all of them in general?
Yeah, just to not be discouraged, that there are no right answers, or maybe there's one wrong answer, which is to stay where you are and not do anything. So you should get up, you should do something, and learn from that. Was it something that gave you a negative signal in the sense of somebody said no? Okay. What does that no mean? What can I learn from it? And then you take that learning and you move it on to the next thing, which just might end up in a yes. But be in movement, know that you can. This generation is going to live for a long time. So part of the reality check of this moment is this idea that you're going to have to think about new things and be in transition all along of your very long lives. And how do you start to perfect that now so that the next time you're in transition, you're doing it even better?
Dr. Memuna, much appreciated. I wish we had more time because there's quite a lot, and then this is an interesting, conversation indeed. But much appreciated for coming in.
My pleasure.
That was Dr. Memuna Williams. They're the founder and CEO of Empowering Sustainable Change. As we've heard tonight, the 88% matric pass rate is a powerful achievement, but success doesn't end with a certificate. The real challenge now is ensuring that education opens doors to skills, work and sustainable opportunity. That's where the future of South Africa's youth will be decided. Thank you for joining us on Soweto Today tonight. Remember, we love hearing from you. Share your views. It's current affairs at sowetotv.co.za or WhatsApp us is 081 531 8857. From myself, Thabo Molokoane, and the Soweto Today team, thank you for watching. The latest news update is up next. Bye-bye.